Hi again, everybody. Jeremy Plonk here with First Bet and Express Bet, and welcome to the It's Official podcast. Each Tuesday, we tackle 5 hot topics in horse racing, and this week, it's all about the Travers Stakes, and 5 being the key number, just 5 entrants in the Midsummer Derby. We've got 5 headlines each week, so they kind of write themselves. We're going to take a look at all 5 contenders, the big questions with each, and how it might stack up when we get to the race at 1.25 miles on Saturday. Special welcome to those of you watching on the wager guide from First and Veasan. The Travers Stakes wager guide is up and ready to go. If you haven't downloaded and accessed it for free yet, be sure to check it out at first.com/guide, 1st.com/guide, and you can check out that wager guide. Handicappers from Veasan and First teaming up for this year's wager guide for the Travers Stakes. 14 race card at the Spa on Saturday kicks off at 11:10 a.m. Eastern. Travers Stakes, the main event, will be race number 13 on that card. Of course, at the classic distance of 1.25 miles. Our headline horse and our first topic this week on the big board, of course, has to do with Sovereignty. And it's the 2-5 favorite against just 4 rivals. The question isn't, will Sovereignty win on Saturday, but just how high can he climb? He's already had an outstanding 3-year-old season, of course, winning the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont, and the Jim Dandy in succession. He could become the first horse ever to win all 4 of those races in the same season, of course, restricted to 3-year-olds. The son of Into Mischief, a heavy 2-5 favorite, and everything seems to be pointing his way on Saturday. He's won over the racetrack. He's won at 1.25 miles, and the 1.25 mile distance is really what kind of separates the contenders and the pretenders in these big 3-year-old and classic division races. This will probably be the last time that Sovereignty ever runs against just 3-year-olds. He'll go into the open company ranks and a run towards the Breeders' Cup Classic next if all things go well here. Let's talk about what that would mean if Sovereignty can win a Travers and go on to the Breeders' Cup. Because when you talk about his quality, you're talking about a horse not just for this year, but maybe for the past decade or even longer. If he can win on Saturday in the Travers Stakes, Sovereignty is going to do something historic in terms of winning those 4 races in a row. The Derby, the Belmont, the Jim Dandy, and then, of course, the Travers Stakes. If he could add on a Breeders' Cup Classic at the end of the season, we are talking about one of the all-time seasons we've ever seen amongst the 3-year-old. I tried to rank the top 23-year-olds since 2000 over the past 25 years. Here's the list I came up with. It's a little bit of resume, what did you do during the season, a little bit what did you go on to do in some cases, and an overall view of my quality of not only the horse but their accomplishments. Maybe you'll compare and agree with some of these, and maybe you'll disagree with them, but here's the way I rank the top 23-year-old males since 2000. Arrogate, to me, was the most dynamic and talented horse I've seen during this time. Back in 2016, he wasn't part of the Triple Crown scene, but he burst onto the scene with a track record performance in the Travers Stakes, went on to win a Breeders' Cup Classic, and was a really good 4-year-old as well. Arrogate, to me, on pure talent and accomplishment, the best horse since the 2000s out of the 3-year-old male ranks. Tis now a 2-time Breeders' Cup Classic winner. He was not another horse who did not make it through the Triple Crown Series, debuted late in the go and got good really late in his 3-year-old year. Point Given back in 2001 did everything except win the Kentucky Derby. His dominant victories in the Preakness, the Belmont, and the Travers were something to behold. Of course, American Pharoah, the 2015 Triple Crown winner. Some folks arguably would put him on top as the first Triple Crown winner in more than 37 years. His 2015 performances were really top shelf. Curlin, Justify the 2018 Triple Crown winner. California Chrome in that mix, Marty Jones, Barbaro, Big Brown. And you see down through the rest of the top 20, I've got horses like Sets at 11, Bernardini, a Fleet Alex, who was really good back in 2005, Fusaichi Pegasus in 2000. I'll have another 1/2 of the Triple Crown before being injured and retired. Epicenter is one of the newer runners in there. And while Epicenter was kind of banging with a lot of firsts and seconds, he never ran a bad race. And he was at the highest level in all of his starts, running all the way through Triple Crown Travers. And of course, had the ill-fated Breeders' Cup Classic where he was injured and the terrible finish to his career. The 17 ranked horse in here for me is Nyquist, the winner of the Kentucky Derby back in 2016, still undefeated when he went went through that Derby in 2016. Authentic had a really good season during the COVID year in 2020. Summer Bird back in the day, winning a Belmont, the Travers, a horse who was right there in the mix, Breeders' Cup wise, and Essential Quality, a 2-year-old champion who was a really good 3-year-old. Another one of these who have come through the ranks of the Travers as well. Essential Quality in 2021, winning the Travers. You see Epicenter, the 22 winner of the Travers Stakes on this list. Those are, along with American Pharaoh, Travers winners here, and some others on the list like Arrowgate and Point Given. As you can tell, the Travers is a really important race in terms of the quality of a 3-year-old season, because a lot of horses may have a great spring in through the Triple Crown, but do they sustain it? Or are they late bloomers and kind of rise up through the ranks later in the year? We saw those late bloomers, the Tisnows, the Arrowgates, horses like that. But the horses who can sustain through the Triple Crown Series and run big in the Travers are really to behold. And that's what the chance is for Sovereignty here, because he can do something that, two of the greats, the Triple Crown winners in this decade, in this last decade, 2015, on the right, you see American Pharaoh and his Preakness win. On the left, you see Justify and his Belmont Stakes win. What those two horses weren't able to do was go on and win a Travers. For Justify, he never ran again after the Triple Crown and was retired to stud after some minor injuries. As for American Pharaoh, he did run in the Haskell Stakes, won that at Monmouth, then came to the Travers, and he was beaten in a big upset that year in 2015 by Keen Ice. He wasn't able to deliver, but he came back and then won the Breeders' Cup Classic for the quote-unquote Grand Slam of horse racing, winning the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup Classic. But he wasn't able to win the Travers Stakes. Will that same fate trip up Sovereignty on Saturday? I don't think so. I think he's going to deliver a victory, because 1.25 miles separates the greats. And I think that's where he'll be able to pull past this field that includes just 4 challengers. But where will we move Sovereignty on this list? If he gets a Travers win, let's go back to the list in here. I think right now he's somewhere in that ballpark right below Bernardini. I would say right now, Sovereignty is about number 13 on the list of best 3-year-olds we've seen since 2000. If he's able to add a Travers Stakes, I think he moves up the list several spots. Now you're putting him in that 7, 8, 9 range, I think, with Justify, with Smarty Jones, with Barbaro. That's the kind of talent I think we're talking about with Sovereignty. So if he wins on Saturday, he's up into that 7, 8, 9 ranks. Really, only horses that would be above him at that point: Arrowgate, Tisnow, Point Given, American Pharaoh, Curlin, California Chrome. Then I think you got Sovereignty right in that spot. Now, if we move forward one more step and get a victory in the Breeders' Cup Classic, if he's able to win the Travers and the Breeders' Cup Classic, Sovereignty here to close 2025, now he moves up. I mean, I think he moves up past California Chrome, past Curlin, and you're putting him in that top 4 category of Arrowgate, Tisnow, Point Given, and American Pharaoh. I mean, he is right up there with the greats of the greats in the last 25 years. That's sort of what's on the line. I think he's a 7, 8, 9 kind of player with a victory on Saturday, with a chance to get up as high as the top 4 horses of the last 25 years. You can certainly debate once you get up to the top. And style points are going to matter, right? The way Arrowgate won was almost as impressive as the victories themselves in the manner that he won. Track record time, smashing the track record in the Travers Stakes. So what Sovereignty does on Saturday in style points and what he would do potentially in the Breeders' Cup Classic, that makes a big difference, I think, when you're talking about some of the all-time greats. I think style points start to add up when you get up to everybody's got a great resume. But Sovereignty is spectacular. I thought he was a little on the workman-like side in running down Baeza and winning the Jim Dandy last time out, but that was a prep to this race. It should have been a little step back from the Belmont Stakes. Bill Mott, a master trainer, has got the 1 prep. He's got 2 workouts since then.
Made that
Sovereignty
bid, but
was
drops
working
back, and then Sandman there at the top of the stretch. Sovereignty is up to take the lead. He and Baeza in close quarters, but Sovereignty has the upper hand in mid-stretch. Baeza is trying his best to cling to him, but it's Sovereignty and Junior Alvarado still on top. And still with plenty left in the tank. Sovereignty scores in the Jim Dandy. Baeza ran lights out, but he ran in.
With no Baeza in this race, with no journalism in this race, the competition for Sovereignty is certainly lessened. Does that diminish his accomplishment? maybe in some of the style points talks, but when we look at that list of the great horses the last 25 years, you don't always remember who ran second, third, fourth behind them in particular seasons, because most 3-year-old crops don't have a tremendous amount of A-plus depth to them. I think back to 2007 when you had Curlin, Street Sense, Hard Spun, the Philly, Rags to Riches. That was an outstanding group back in 2007. Are they that good this year? Potentially with Sovereignty, Journalism, Baeza? They could be that kind of group. We'll see here as we get through the last couple races of the year. Certainly Baeza would have 2 more starts, you would assume. Sovereignty with 2 more starts, and Journalism with 2 more starts. Knock on wood that they all remain healthy, and hopefully they remain on a path towards the Breeders' Cup Classic where they can run one more time head-to-head and see who is best at the end of the season. But certainly to this point, there has been no question Sovereignty is the top 3-year-old in the land, and we'll see if he's one of the top 3-year-olds of the last 25 years. He's got 2 more chances to make that case. Let's go to our second topic this week on It's Official, and it's the second contender that most people would look at. In David Aragona's morning line, 2-5 on Sovereignty, 2-1 clear-cut second choice for Magnitude. Can Magnitude shake things up on the favorite? I often say from a handicapping standpoint, if you're going to beat a heavy favorite, what you want to try to find in the anatomy of an upset is a diverse running style. If the horse you're trying to beat the favorite with has the same kind of running style, you're kind of going up against it, because if the favorite gets the right kind of trip and the right kind of setup in terms of the race flow, then the best horse is probably going to win. It's a divergent running style that can upset a favorite, and Magnitude has that. He is going straight to the front based on his past performances. He went wire to wire in winning the Risen Star. He went wire to wire in winning the Iowa Derby last time. If you're going to beat Sovereignty on Saturday, Magnitude's got the right style to try to do it. He's got the rail, he's got the speed, and he's just going to try to go wire to wire like he did in his comeback race in the Iowa Derby. When this horse blew up the tote board at 42-1, 43-1 in the Risen Star Stakes back in February, he really kind of came out of nowhere with the performance when he won by almost 10 lengths. He got a 108 Beyer speed figure and immediately went to the top of everybody's Triple Crown watch list. But some bone chips made him go to the sidelines for the year, or for the spring, and he came back off a layoff February to July 5th in the Iowa Derby. This was a really smart comeback race by trainer Steve Asmussen. Iowa Derby, an easy distance to achieve at 1 mile and a 16th against a lesser field on a speed-favoring racetrack. It was really a perfect setup to see what he can do in the Travers.
It's My Birthday swings widest into the lane as he tries to close ranks on Magnitude. Coming down to the final furlong, suddenly 4 lengths in front. Magnitude strutting his stuff in the Iowa Derby. It's just a matter of how far. 7, 8 lengths in front as they come through the final 16th. It is Magnitude, and he was ready to roll. It's My Birthday.
Well, Steve Asmussen, the Hall of Fame trainer, he's won this Travers Stakes before, most recently with Epicenter in 2022. Magnitude is 4 for 8 lifetime. He's got some clunkers thrown in, but his last 2 have just been otherworldly compared to his other starts. If he continues to ascend, could he threaten Sovereignty? For me, the answer would be no, because of the distance at 1.25 miles. Remember, that was 1 mile and a 16th there at Prairie Meadows in the Iowa Derby. Yes, he won at 1.125 miles in the Risen Star Stakes, but he's never gone the 1.25 miles. And one thing about the Risen Star Stakes, that was back in February. I always say this about 9 furlong races early in the year. There aren't that many on the calendar, but they almost all end up in carousels. None of the horses that time of year want to run 1.1 miles. The horse with the most brilliance and the speed who gets to the front just leads them around in the carousel chase, and that's what happened when Magnitude ran off and hid in the Risen Star Stakes. It wasn't the best group of horses we've seen from the fairgrounds. Historically, that circuit has been really strong over the last 5, 6, 8 years in terms of producing major league 3-year-olds. They weren't that great coming from the fairgrounds this year. So what Risen Star distance at 1.125 miles did for Magnitude that day just proved that he was much better than that group, much faster than that group, and that none of them at that time really wanted to negotiate the 9 furlongs. Now you got to get all the way to 10 off of the 1 mile and a 16th prep. I thought it was a brilliant prep race by Steve Asmussen because it really leaves us still dripping with a little intrigue for this year's Travers Stakes. Had he come back and run in the Jim Dandy off the long layoff, we'd already know kind of a little bit of a head-to-head what he's going to do against Sovereignty. But they didn't throw him to the wolves first time back. And that also left a little meat on the bone as we kind of look at this Travers Stakes, because there's that what-if factor. We don't know. Magnitude remains an X factor. He's never run at Saratoga before. He's never run the mile and an eighth or mile and a quarter, but his victories in the last two going wire to wire means he's going to be a threat for the beginning part of the race. What happens if Sovereignty doesn't fire his best shot? And what if Magnitude just keeps on trucking when the others in the race don't want to go a mile and a quarter? It's an interesting scenario, but I think the mile and a quarter kind of separates things, and he'll pick up 126 pounds here, 4 more than he's ever carried. So he's never run at Saratoga. He's never carried 126, and he's never gone the mile and a quarter. Sovereignty checks all those boxes. But if Magnitude's to win this race, he's got the right style to do it. He's going to go to the front, and he's going to take them as far as he can. Let's go to our third topic this week on It's Officials. We go to our third contender by terms of the morning line, and that is Strategic Focus. But will inexperience blur the focus for Strategic Focus? He's only run 3 times in his career. He won the first 2. And then last time out in the Curlin Stakes, he took a nice lead into the stretch and then kind of lost focus. Can he gain it back getting blinkers on?
Focus takes command of the Curlin at the top of the stretch and opens up a 3-length lead. Chancellor McPatrick is now starting to roll on the outside, and here he comes. Chancellor McPatrick coming right after Strategic Focus as they come to the 16th pole, and So Sandy running a big race too, trying to spoil the party. So Sandy on the outside, just in front. So Sandy turned away at the wire by Chancellor McPatrick, who would not be denied. Strategic Focus finished third in the Curlin, presented by Casamigos.
You saw in the gallop out there, he didn't really back up. Strategic Focus may have just lost focus in that race in the Curlin Stakes. Here you see him in victory at Saratoga back on June the 6th, not wearing blinkers that day. He'll get blinkers for the first time going the mile and a quarter. But again, he's only run 3 times. He's got some inexperience to deal with. Chancellor McPatrick, his stablemate, was more
takes command.
Time out in that race at Saratoga in the Curlin Stakes. Chancellor McPatrick, though, is going to go on the undercard. So he's going to turn back and distance Chancellor McPatrick and go in the Grade 1 Jerkin Stakes. Trainer Chad Brown, interestingly, puts the least experienced horse of those two in the longer race here, going the mile and a quarter. Strategic Focus off that third place finish, again, with just the 3 career starts. He's got plenty of pedigree. He's by Gun Runner. He's out of a Curlin mare. It would seem that the mile and a quarter could be within his reach. He wanted a mile and an eighth at Saratoga back in June in that allowance race. And again, I don't think he got tired at the end of this Curlin Stakes. I think he lost focus, and that's the reason why Chad Brown went to the blinkers. I actually think in terms of upset chances, he might have a little bit better upset chance at a mile and a quarter than Magnitude. At least maybe the mile and a quarter, I think, will suit him a bit better than it will Magnitude. So we shall see. Is 3 starts enough to get this one over the top? Flavian Pratt takes the mount here as they pick up 6 pounds. So there's a lot of questions. He hasn't gone the mile and a quarter. He picks up 6 pounds, but he's got the pedigree. He's got a good trainer in Chad Brown, who had the favorite for this race last year in Sierra Leone. And again, as we mentioned, with pedigree, he's by Gun Runner. Gun Runner, as a racehorse, won twice at Saratoga, the 2017 Whitney and Woodward, and he was third in the Travers Stakes in his 3-year-old season of 2016. He's sired horses like Sierra Leone, who was second in last year's Travers. So Strategic Focus, he's got pedigree to play, no question about it. He gets blinkers on. Trainer Chad Brown looking to make amends last year, just missing with Sierra Leone in this race when they were defeated by Fierceness. So third place finish last year for Sierra Leone in the Travers. We'll see if this son of Gun Runner can get over the top for the barn and the sire. Strategic Focus, one of the top contenders in this year's race, no question. Amongst the field of 5, I think he certainly sits third in the pecking order in terms of the wagering. How close his betting will be is going to be interesting with Magnitude. David Aragona's morning line has Strategic Focus at 8-1 and Magnitude at 2-1. I don't know if they pinch together a little bit tighter. I don't think the public's going to let the third choice go much higher than that. 8-1 might be about right on the high end. But if people get tuned into this horse and they look at Strategic Focus with the connections, Brown and Pratt get bet awfully heavy, much more than you would say Ben Curtis aboard Magnitude. So if the connections take a little bit more play in this race, I could see the price pinching a little bit between Magnitude and Strategic Focus. Maybe they're 3-1 and 6-1, something like that, where up a point for one, down a point for the other. I could see them being a little bit closer in the wagering. 3 starts for Strategic Focus. He's been 3-5, 3-5, and 7-5 in his 3 starts. So he's been bet each and every time. And again, in that Curlin Stakes, he was 3-5 when finishing in third. So Strategic Focus, our third contender, will inexperience catch up with him. I think on the win end, I couldn't take him to upset Sovereignty in this particular spot. The inexperience, I think, will take its toll in the final 1/8 of a mile against a horse like Sovereignty. But could he finish second in this race? Absolutely. I think he's a horse you definitely want to watch, Strategic Focus, if you're playing exactas. Let's go to our fourth topic this week on the It's Official podcast. And the 220-1 shots in the field begin with number 4, Bracket Buster. If you're in the March Madness, you know the Bracket Busters are the ones that upset the apple cart and throw everybody's bracket into chaos. How far can this horse make a run in the tournament? Well, Bracket Buster from post number 2 is going to have Luis Saez aboard. And we'll see, coming out of some races at Monmouth Park, where Bracket Buster won the Pegasus Stakes 2 starts back by 7 lengths in virtually wire-to-wire fashion, and last time made the lead in the Haskell in a pretty solid set of fractions, 46-4, 110-3 to the front in a race where he ended up fading 4th, beating 8 lengths behind Journalism, Gosger, and Goal Oriented. I don't think Bracket Buster can take him far enough, but if the track comes up sloppy, as you see in that photograph, he certainly excelled with a 7-length victory in the listed stakes company in the Pegasus Stakes. But in that Pegasus, it was just a mile and a 16th. He was carrying 118 pounds. He'll go 3/16 of a mile farther, carrying 8 more pounds than he did in that race. It would be a very, very tall task for Bracket Buster to advance very far in this year's edition of the Travers Stakes. Could he finish third in this 5-horse field? I think there's some potential for that, but any higher than third, Bracket Buster would be making, I think, a much improved run. Let's take a look at his win in the Pegasus. If you like Bracket Buster at all, you're praying for some rain on Saturday.
Bracket Buster getting away. He's 2 lengths ahead. Now it's 2.5 at the top of the lane here. Wild and Crazy Night trying to re-rally. He's second. Garamond down on the rail. He's in trouble. Still in third and just plodding in place. Bracket Buster increasing the lead. He's got 7 lengths ahead. Bracket Buster and Axel Concepcion. He's going to wrap this one up. He's punched his ticket to the NyraBets Haskell in the NyraBets Pegasus. Bracket Buster loved the slop and he was geared down.
Now, if you're going to play Bracket Buster, you're going to get a big price. You're going to need a big price. 20-1 in the morning line. With a 5-horse field, it really depends how heavy they go on the favorites as to where those bottom-end horses are going to be in terms of prices. Will there be a big swell and those horses all balloon in price? If you got 30-40-1 on a horse like Bracket Buster and it rained, maybe you get interested. But other than that, I can't see much scenario. Certainly no value to me at 20-1. He was 27-1 in an 8-horse Haskell and got romped in that one by 8 when the real running began. The one thing about Bracket Buster is he could apply some early heat on Magnitude, and that could be a key to the race. In terms of the race shape, and that's what we say, if you're going to upset a horse like Sovereignty, who typically comes from off the pace, then you want to try to do it on the front end. Magnitude just looks like the better of the 2 speed horses and the more talented of the speed horses. And Magnitude has the inside post position. He'll cut the corner into the clubhouse turn and get the trip in that respect too. For Bracket Buster to be able to press Magnitude, put him away, and then hold off the closers, that is an extremely, extremely tall task. I don't think Bracket Buster gets out of the first round if you want to keep the March Madness puns going there. I would be shocked if he runs any better than third in this particular spot. If he was lone speed in the race, that would be a different story. But Magnitude can definitely run early in here, and Strategic Focus doesn't come from far, far back. And Strategic Focus, with adding blinkers, is going to be a little bit closer to the pace too. I think Bracket Buster is a horse who's in between 2 more talented horses and doesn't get the right pace set up at all. So no go for me on Bracket Buster if you're playing the tournament. Now, let's go to the fifth and final topic this week on It's Official, and it's about the 5 in here, McAfee, who will probably be the longest shot on the tote board at 20-1. Does pedigree give McAfee any security at the 1.25 miles? The reason we mentioned the pedigree with this one is because he is a half to Torpedo Anna. His half-sister is Torpedo Anna, the 2024 Horse of the Year. She's entered back in the Personal Ensign Stakes in her 4-year-old season now. That's one of the undercard features on Saturday's program. We've got handicapping of that race, the Personal Ensign, part of the First and VSiN Wager Guide as well. Torpedo Anna loves Saratoga, no question about that. Won the Coaching Club Oaks, won the Acorn over this track. So while McAfee has never run here, he'll try to do his older sister one better. She was second in last year's Travers when taking on the boys. But for McAfee, he's got a better chance of getting hot and dirty, as my old friend, the great publicist John Asher, used to say at Churchill Downs. Here he was in the Wood Memorial. McAfee's Kentucky Derby dreams kind of went up in smoke that day in the Wood Memorial when he ran 5th. In fact, he hasn't won since breaking his maiden first time out. He's a son of Cloud Computing, who ran in the Travers Stakes after his 2016 Preakness victory, but didn't show much in the Preakness Stakes, that being Cloud Computing. But again, his sister likes the track here, obviously. Rick Dutchow, the trainer of McAfee, gets Hall of Famer John Velasquez back aboard. Velasquez rode this one to placings in the Peter Pan, the Ohio Derby, and the West Virginia Derby already this summer. For McAfee, again, though, you've got to go all the way back to November to find his last victory, that at Churchill Downs.
Off. McAfee coming on from the outside. Ekenmuseri's now third. Here's McAfee. McAfee's up for the lead. Bermuda Blitz starts to give way. Ekenmuseri, Game Day down inside. Here's the wire. And McAfee from off the pace to win it by 3. Ended up tight for second there. Game Day or Ekenmuseri.
So do we think McAfee's pedigree helps him in the big one at Saratoga? I don't think so. He's got a little bit of a presser style, which means he's not going to lead, and he doesn't have a real ability to pass horses. So he's in a no lead, no pass situation, and I think that's bad news for any horse in any race on any program when you're handicapping. One of the first toss-outs on horses who can win races, and like when you're building a multi-race ticket, like a pick 4 or a pick 5, and you're only looking for winners, if you have a race where there's a horse who can't make the lead and typically doesn't pass horses, no lead, no pass is the easiest first toss out in a race. I don't think McAfee has any shot in here from post 5, from post 10, from post 20. It wouldn't matter. He is the outside horse in here by name, and he is the outside horse in here by post, but he's certainly the outside horse in here, I think, by overall ability. Rick Dutchow having a slow meet, one for his first 30 here at the stand at Saratoga. I like John Velasquez, no question about that. In the saddle, that never hurts, but he doesn't have the steed under him. It would be difficult to see McAfee getting any better than 4th in here. Maybe he beats one who gets tired and stops. I can't see him finishing in the trifecta, though. McAfee, the 5th and outside runner in here. As for the pedigree, he can root on Big Sis earlier in the card in the Personal Ensign Stakes. She'll go an hour or two before he does earlier on the Saratoga program. Let's review the 5 topics this week on It's Official. We talk about how high can Sovereignty climb. I think he could be one of the top 4 or 5 3-year-olds we've seen in the last 25 years. If he can get through the rest of his season unscathed, a win on Saturday puts him, I think, clearly in the top 10. Can Magnitude shake up the favorite? He's got the right running style to do it. Where Sovereignty will probably close from off the pace, this is the speed of the race in Magnitude from the rail, but he's never gone the 1.25 miles. He's never carried this kind of weight, and he's never been over the track at Saratoga. We'll see if he can shake things up on the front end. Will experience blur the focus for strategic focus? It could be tough for him to get that final 1/8 of a mile with a very light resume, picking up 6 pounds. But I think the blinkers on will help him, and I think he's the best chance to complete the exacta in this year's Travers Stakes. As for our 4th topic, how far can the Bracket Buster make a run? I don't think Bracket Buster gets out of the first round. I think he's destined for a 4th or 5th place finish in here. If he can get as high as 3rd, he's done some good things in here. He's got the wrong running style for this kind of race and these particular horses. And then there's McAfee on the outside in here. He's the far outsider. He's the half-brother to Torpedo Anna. While Torpedo Anna ran a very game second in this race last year and loved Saratoga, we don't know if McAfee will take to the track, has never run here in the past. And based on his recent form, no lead, no pass seems like a bad scenario. there's little security for McAfee in this year's Travers Stakes. Those 5 topics are now official because Jeff Siegel and I say so. That's the way we play the game. And would love for you to send out your continued well wishes and prayers to our partner, Jeff Siegel, who's been out since early in the spring, dealing with illness. Jeff, a fixture here with First and Express Bet. Those of you watching or checking in on the First Wager Guide, we'd love to have Jeff back as soon as he's ready to do so. But we want to send out all of our best thoughts to him and our prayers to Jeff as he tries to continue to recover and move forward to maybe a return, we hope, maybe sometime in the fall here, handicapping the races with this. But on behalf of my partner, Jeff Siegel, and everybody with First Bet and Express Bet, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the It's Official podcast. We'll return to our normal 5-topic format next week with all the hot topics in racing, reviewing the Travers Stakes and all the big action at Saratoga and around the country this weekend, where it's also Charlestown Classic night on Friday, biggest night of the year in West Virginia. Have a great Travers, everybody. Good luck at the races.